I spent the last few weeks testing out the Insta360 GO 3. There's some things I loved about it, some things I really didn't. In this video, I'm going to give you my brutally honest review of the Insta360 GO 3. I'll start with what I liked most about the GO 3, and that's its incredibly tiny size. It is 2 inches long, about 1 inch wide, and weighs a little over an ounce. The camera is so small that it doesn't feel intrusive or like a barrier when you're trying to record. You just clip it to your hat, use the magnetic pendant to clip it to the front of your shirt, and you are ready to go. There's times I didn't even really notice the camera when I was doing my POV filming. The first problem I found with having the camera be so small is that every time I would handle it, I would accidentally push the shutter button, so it would start recording when I didn't want it to. It would stop recording when I didn't want it to because I'm taking it in and out of the clip or moving around, and it was nearly impossible for me to handle the camera and not accidentally hit that shutter button. It's just not its size that separates the GO 3 from the rest of the action camera pack. It is also magnetic and comes with some really cool mounting accessories, so you can put it just about anywhere. The easy clip attaches to your hat. In this shot, the GO 3 is attached to my hat using the easy clip, and I have the stabilization on, and it creates smooth footage even though I'm running down the track. The Insta360's image stabilization is excellent. I used the magnetic pendant on my chest and ran down the track again. The camera moved around a lot, so it isn't anywhere as smooth as using the easy clip, but there is a time you may want to have a fast, erratic look. The pivot stand has an adhesive base that you can wash and reuse again, and it is surprisingly strong. So strong that I was worried that I might ruin the surfaces of the item that I was placing it on, and it sticks to just about anything. You can mount the camera almost anywhere. The only limit is your imagination. The quick release mount allows you to use the GO 3 with any other mounting accessories you may have, say from a GoPro or Osmo Action. On this channel, I share all the latest action camera news, reviews, and how-tos, so like and subscribe to learn how to get the most out of your GO 3. The audio is pretty good, but I'll let you hear it for yourself. Testing out the audio on the Insta360 GO 3. I have it set to wind reduction on. It's not particularly windy, so the wind shouldn't be an issue. Next, I'll switch it to stereo. This is audio test 2 for the Insta360 GO 3. Now I have it set to stereo to see if there's an audio difference between this and wind reduction. This is the third audio test for the Insta360 GO 3. Now I have it set to direction focus to see if we can hear a difference in the audio quality between the 3 settings. Okay, now to talk about a major issue that I had with my camera. There is something off with the orientation. I would be holding the camera level to do, a horizontal 16:9 shot, and I will go back and look at the video, and for some reason it was stuck in this kind of vertical sideways format, and just about every time I took it out for a test session, it did this, where I'd be holding it, perfectly horizontal, and I look at the footage and the orientation is off. I tried recalibrating the gyroscope, that didn't help. I got a software update, and I was hoping maybe that would fix the issue. Nope, still continued to have this issue. The camera is so small, it doesn't have a screen on it, so you're really trusting that everything's working properly when you push record and you go out there, and it just stinks to get back and realize that it was not doing what you thought it would do. The GO 3 comes with an action pod, and there is a rear touchscreen on the action pod, and you can use that to make sure your shot is in frame and all the settings are correct, but you don't want to have the action pod out all the time. That kind of defeats, the purpose of having the GO 3 be so small if you have to have the GO 3 on and constantly looking at the action pod. But it is there to make sure that at least when you get started, everything is in frame. And all your settings are correct, so you definitely want to check that. There's a couple of times where I thought the settings were right, but they weren't. I checked it before I started recording. There is a little bit of a lag between the GO 3 and the action pod. They're connected via Bluetooth, and it's not that big of a deal. You're able to tell if everything is in frame and ready to go. And even when the GO 3 was in the action pod, there was still a little bit of a lag, but not a deal breaker. breaker in my opinion. You use the action pod to charge the Go 3, and the battery is not interchangeable, so you have to make sure you're staying on top of how much battery power you have left. According to Insta360, you can get about 170 minutes when you use the Go 3 with the action pod, and I would say that's about right. I will go out a few hours at a time and never had the battery get too low. If you're using the Go 3 without the action pod, you can expect to get about 45 minutes. So you do have to do some battery management, since you just can't, pop in a fresh one and keep going. The Go 3 is waterproof up to 16 feet, but it's important to remember that the action pod is not waterproof. So if you're going to be using it at the pool or at the beach, do not use them together. I had an issue with the Go 3 in the water that I've never had with another action camera. The lens kept fogging up, which was frustrating. So I took the lens off, cleaned it, tightened it back up. No matter what I did, it still kept on fogging up. The Go 3 has all the video and photo modes you'd expect: slow motion, time lapse, hyperlapse, but there is one mode that is unique to the Insta360 GO 3, and that is freeframe. In freeframe, you can record your video and then adjust the aspect ratio however you want, so you can get a horizontal and vertical content out of the same clip. However, the max resolution is 1440p. If you're interested in learning more about the Go 3, there's a product link in the description. The highest resolution you can record in is 2.7K, and I was disappointed when I saw that, because the Osmo Action you can get 4K, the GoPro you can get 5.3K, but the image quality isn't all that bad. And if you think about it, when we're watching content on our phones and our tablets, we're not watching it in 4K. A lot of these streaming services are giving us maybe 1080, and you have to pay more if you want to get 4K content. So ultimately, I don't know if someone would really notice that, hey, this is 2.7K, I want it to be in 4K, when they're just casually watching, TikToks or whatever it is that they are doing. The main downside from the creator standpoint is that you can't really punch in as much as you could with a 5.3K resolution image on the GoPro. The low light performance isn't great, but one low light feature that worked really well is the low light stabilization. Typically, when you're recording on low light with an action camera, there is an excessive amount of motion blur and jitter. I didn't see any of that. So far, all the issues I've talked about with the Go 3 have been relatively minor, but the next two things are on the top of my con list when it comes to the Go 3. Number 2 on my con list is the internal storage. You can buy it with 32 gigs, 64 gigs, or 128 gigs, and that is what you are stuck with. So you can't, swap it out and put, 256 in there. So that kind of stinks. I bought the 32 gig because it was the cheapest. So you really have to be aware of your data storage management. You just can't, just go out there and record anything and everything you want, knowing that you have just a ton of storage available to you. One thing you can do is that it is easy to transfer the videos and photos to your phone using the Insta360 app. One thing I will say, it did last longer than I expected, probably because the resolution is so low that it doesn't take nearly as much up space as if you're recording, on your GoPro. Now for my number 1 con, and that is the price. When you think about, well, you don't have to buy an SD card for your Go 3, it is less than the Osmo Action or the GoPro, but not that much less, and the Osmo Action and GoPro have a lot more horsepower underneath the hood. I was expecting the 32 gig Go 3 to be priced maybe closer to the Osmo Action 3 at $330 as opposed to $380. So it is on the pricier end, and maybe a tad overpriced in my opinion. I've enjoyed using the Go 3 over the past few weeks, and I'll continue to do so. I'd recommend this camera for someone that is interested in being creative, getting some interesting shots. If you like POV, you want something that's not big and bulky, this is the camera for you. Now, if you are someone that's really into the specs and the image quality, and you really want to get in there and adjust your colors, probably not the camera for you. If you want to see a walkthrough of the Go 3 and all the settings and features, check out this video.